Hey everybody, welcome to another episode, a very unique episode. We have a real life student. He's, Abe, you tell him who you are. What's your name? What grade are you? How old are you? What school do you go
my name is
to?
Abe Rhodes,
Just a little bit about you.
17, senior in high school, which is kind of crazy. I go to Cathedral Catholic High School
That's
in
crazy.
San Diego, California. I play soccer, like to surf, a lot of very active person, just kind of out there, down for whatever. Yeah,
Down to clown. So being a senior, and
yeah.
that's the context for this conversation, is talking about the future. So last week on Instagram, I just posted this thing and said, "Hey, does anybody have a kid that you'd want to have a conversation about their future that maybe is not totally there yet in terms of clarity?" And I had maybe 15 people over the course of a day respond with their kid, "Hey, yeah, you should talk to my kid." But the first two
Really?
responses were your parents. It was like within 2 minutes separately,
That's
they didn't
funny.
talk to each other. Like, "Oh, you should talk to Abe. Oh, you should talk to Abe."
Yeah.
So being a senior, one of the big questions that comes up, obviously, and especially being at a school like yours, which for those who don't know, Cathedral, it's a Catholic private school, and it's definitely on the end of the spectrum of being university bound. It's more high achieving. It's just more of an intense environment than maybe some schools out there. So the question that you typically get, that we're going to start with, is what are you going to do? What's your plan? Where are you going to college? So how are you currently answering that
Yeah.
question? And I'm sure you might have a few different responses, but what's
I tell people that it's a
your
work in
current response?
progress at the moment. Like if parents ask or like people I know. I have ideas in my head of like, oh, it'd be super cool to go here. Like I feel like this college or whatever would be interesting. But I think you have to think about like this is a big choice. Like this kind of is the first like shape how your life's gonna play out choice. Um,
Yeah,
Also, like with grades, it's
yeah,
difficult because, it's my last year. I really have to like put in this effort to like some people just like to kick back and relax your senior year, go to community college, whatever. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. But me personally, I'm
yep,
like in my mind, I want
yep.
to achieve the opportunity to go to a four-year university and kind of like, I don't know, hold myself to that standard. So, yeah, kind of work in progress.
Yeah, that's good to know. I didn't know. I didn't ask you beforehand. I didn't know what your plans were, and I think it's
Yeah.
interesting for somebody that has an older sibling.
Hmm.
Like for me, I had a sister who's 3 years older, and
Yeah.
she'll never let me forget 4.72 GPA, and went to UCSD. You have an older sister who's,
Yeah.
as far as I know, is a great
Hmm.
student as well. She's going to Baylor, so that kind of sets the course. At least for you, there's some expectation, and I'm just curious how that's
Oh, I
impacted
think
you.
I kind of in my mind I know it's there, but I don't want to display that I'm like under all this pressure, like to be like, oh, I gotta live up to my sister's
Yeah,
expectations. I want to be myself, obviously. And yeah, what she's done is
yeah,
awesome. She's super smart. She went and got it for herself. So that's the kind of side of it that I want to be like, okay, I want to do that for
hmm
myself as well. But yeah, and I think definitely I'm capable of like it's not like out of reach for me to be like, okay, like college is just this big giant monster that I'm not gonna be able to tackle. But
hmm
I think definitely like getting to that point is important to me, and obviously like having a good role model like my sister to like
hmm
kind of be like, okay, I she did it.
yeah,
I have an understanding. Like that's like super helpful to me,
yeah.
but kind of just like want to do it, follow that, but then branch off sort of.
There's this,
Yeah, totally.
you kind of do make sure it's your own path. Yeah. There's a scene, I think it's from Finding Nemo, and the setting is it's a morning time, everyone's going off to work, and these two fish are swimming by, and this one fish is going through, and the one fish says to the two guys, "Hey, good morning, guys. How's the water today?" And then the two guys are just kind of like, as we normally do, just mumbled back like, "Hey, morning." And as the two guys swim away by themselves, one of the fish turns to the
Yeah,
other fish and says, "What's water? What is he talking about?" And I think what they're trying to kind of get at is when you're
totally.
in the water, you don't know that you're in the water. And when you're in a family where there's a sister that's gone off to do something and is ambitious and smart, like you said, that's
Yeah.
compounded with you're also at a school like that. You're at a
Hmm.
school where, and I went to I went to Santa Margarita Catholic. It's almost exact same school as Cathedral, and it's up in Orange County. And I just remember it wasn't really a question amongst
Hmm.
my friends if you're going to go off to a 4-year school. It was where are you going and what are you going to do? And
Hmm.
as people would,
Yeah.
especially athletes, start showing their sweatshirts early in the year where they're getting recruited, and then on top of that, everyone starts to talk about where they're applying and maybe where they already have scholarships or something like that. Like there's just a little bit of built in, and I think that's actually a
Hmm.
really healthy
Yeah.
thing. Some high expectations for who you are and what you'll do. Do you like
Yeah.
that? Because you haven't always been at Cathedral. You
Um,
made a shift and a
I think
transfer.
being at Cathedral has actually helped me a lot because like last sophomore year online school, I was like lacking all motivation, kind of just wasn't my year. Like I was not able to like make school my priority. I'm like stuck in my room all day on just, the screen, and it's
Yep.
definitely affected me. But being back in
Yep.
like being the first school back to be in person and being at Cathedral, where there's this like they hold themselves
Yeah.
like the whole culture of the school is a really high standard. I think it's helped me a lot because I see all these people around me
Hmm.
that are like, oh, they have all these big dreams and they're like going and achieving all these things. Everyone's smart. I think it's totally like helped me. And I kind of
Yep.
am like, okay, well, I'm gonna do my best to like fit into this and play my part. And then also like
Yeah.
now as a senior, I can help the younger underclassmen and be like, this is how this works.
Mhm.
Like, hold yourself to the standard and trust me,
Yeah.
like, you will benefit from it greatly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've been telling that to, as you know, my son, Kale. He's a sophomore and trying to give him the perspective that senior you in the future really wants sophomore you to make choices that give senior
100%. Yeah.
you the most options. And so you might want to surf now, you might want to relax now. You might even see some friends who are taking that attitude, but
Yeah.
try to imagine the future you and what that person wants, which is kind of hard to do when you're always in the moment. You said at the beginning that I forget how you said it, but
Yeah.
this college choice is the first real choice that you're going to make on your own. And built into that obviously is pressure and stress. And I think the definition, as I understand it, of anxiety
Hmm.
is something that's out of your control. And obviously behind the question of where you're going to go to
Yeah.
college is what are you going to do for a living? So I want to kind of zoom out or maybe even zoom back in your life. What have been the series of things that you've said over the years? Like
Yeah.
I'm sure you were asked when you're 5 years old, what is Abe going to be when he grows up? Like what have the things been that you've talked about and
I've always
explored?
had a love for science. So, and as a kid, it was kind of just very broad. It's like, oh, I want to be a doctor. But like, when I get to middle school, I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
had good grades in middle school. Obviously, like, I'm going to carry that over to high school or do my best to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like somewhere like all these doctors like surgeons and allergists and like I just recently had surgery and I got to talk to
Mm-hmm.
the anesthesiologist and that's like super crazy and that's totally high paying but that's a lot of work and I was like as a kid I'm like that sounds so cool to me like
Yeah.
I'll make all this money doing something I enjoy um but obviously like
Mm-hmm.
that like now I realize that's like such a stretch like so few people have the opportunity to do that so I'm like okay I'll broaden it
Yeah.
to somewhere in the science field because that's one strong subject I really enjoy science and kind of all aspects of it too like
Mm-hmm.
physics earth science like
Hmm.
chemistry so nothing specifically but I think if I do a major
Hmm.
in some scientific like field like maybe it's just like general science or biology or something like that, can definitely see myself like going into that field after college and into like a real job.
I am actually very impressed with your answer because I think a lot of young
Yeah.
people don't connect some of the dots that you're connecting of things that you enjoy, career. One of the terms I've used for years, I remember meeting this kid a few years ago that I asked him, what do you want to do? What are you thinking about when you grow up? And he was, I think, a sophomore,
Hmm.
junior. And he's like, oh, I'm going to be a basketball player. And
Yeah.
it was like one of those times where you just wanted to start laughing because the kid was maybe 5'4". And not that he
Yeah.
couldn't, and maybe he's got this amazing jump shot and like a 5 foot vertical or something, but the chances are that
Hmm.
he's not connecting those dots. He's not seeing the reality. And so the term I've used is to come up with
Yeah.
a dream, but it has to be sober. Like when when you're not sober, you're just like high as a kite, and you think, oh, I'll
Hmm.
just anesthesiologist. That sounds cool, and they just kind of float in at the last part and just stand there and then walk away. But as you've said, there's so much more to it, and then to broaden that like uh, the scope of what that could turn into is actually, I think, a really, really mature thing.
Yeah.
What I hear you saying is, I don't know yet, but I've got an
Hmm.
indication that I'm onto something. Let me ask you this. When you think about adults that you've interacted with, uh, who are the people that you admire? Who are the people that you look up to? And I guess I want to ask you that in a broader way than
Yeah.
just what they do for a living, because chances are
Hmm.
you're not even really sure besides the title for what they do every day. But who are some of the adults that come to mind that you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I like the way they are as adults.
Definitely my own mom. Like she's just the most caring, like loving, supporting person that I know. She's always there for me. She's a teacher, like that's what she does for a living. So she's always been around kids. She
Yeah.
You rarely see her upset, which is kind of like easy for people to be
Hmm.
like, "Oh, well that's not true." Like you're saying that because it's your mom. But like and she teaches at the school I go
Right.
to, so it's like I see her all the time and she's always smiling, like super happy. She I think she really loves what she does,
Huh.
which is like super cool to see. Like obviously it's like not just a shot in the dark and then you
Yeah.
end up horribly, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Another one I'd say definitely
Right.
is my grandpa on my dad's side, who is a pastor for
Uh-huh.
35 plus years. Um, and he is just like the most God loving, super relaxed, can crack any joke he wants to, always there, like grandpa. And he's played a huge role in my childhood because a lot of people don't get to grow up with their grandparents around them. And I've definitely been super grateful to have
Right.
both my grandparents and yeah, both my grandparents on each side in my life, and I'm super grateful. But
Yeah.
he is totally like just like if you look at someone and you're like, this person is just gonna waltz their way into heaven, it'd be that guy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I've met him a few
Yeah,
times, and you're right. What do
Papa
you guys
Joe.
call him, Papa Joe? Yeah. It, and if you're watching and listening to this, any imagination you might have of a stodgy, uptight
Not at all.
ministry person, pastor person,
Fisherman.
he's not it. And
Yeah.
it's extremely relatable, normal, good man all around. When you think about the lifestyle you want, I think I was a little bit weird I was really young. I remember it when I was like third grade, telling one of my parents, I can't wait till I get older and have kids and get to coach my kids' sports. I can't wait to be a dad. So, and I know
Yeah.
some people are like, that's the last thing on my mind. I'm just curious if you have any imagination about the family you
Um,
want to have when you're an adult.
I definitely, I mean, I will 100% like I want to start a family. Like kind of like similar to you, like would love to see my kids play sports and like be a part of that for them because I think it's super awesome. And like I had friends growing
Mm-hmm.
up who their dad was like the coach, and it's like a different side of it that you don't really get to experience unless like your parents are a part of that, which I think would be super cool to like be that for my
Yeah.
kids. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
want to start a family though, get married, like have a. I don't just want to be like off some nomad who just travels the U.S. by himself and like goes on all these adventures or whatever, but definitely
Yeah.
settle down sometime and yeah, be a family man for sure.
I remember when we had two kids, and I think we were contemplating having another kid. And wise advice I got from an older guy. He said, "Do you imagine being your life being more outside the house, outside your family, or do you imagine your life?" And what he meant was it like what fires you up and what brings you joy and meaning. And there was a season for me that it was
Yeah,
outside. It was like you said, to go travel, to go see things, to go create things. And then after a while, it became no,
yeah,
this is here what I want to create and build. And I think there's a series of choices there,
totally.
like priorities that have these little inflection points. Do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And you've probably
Yeah, I've
taken those
seen those
like
before.
personality tests or kind of career assessments. um, I want to go back a little bit to the science part, at least as you're starting to picture science or a career. What is it do you like about science? And then on top of that, have you connected maybe through classes? Have you connected with a problem that science solves that you get kind of fired up about or irritated about?
Um, I definitely say my like what I enjoy about science is the real world application. Like math problems, like are all a lot of them that you learn in high school at least are just hypothetical, like solve for X, and the world will be saved or whatever. But science I can apply to real
Yeah.
world, like chemistry, labs. Like you look at the earth around you, and that's like what you're studying. Like that's your whole background. So I think that's super interesting, especially with like all the different aspects. Like you be like a marine biologist, or you could just be a regular biologist, or a chemist, or a physicist. Like there's all these different options that you can
Hmm.
explore, and it's kind of just a very broad spectrum that you can like hone in on the spot where you're like, okay, this is like this is where I want to be. And then a real world problem,
Yeah.
that's kind of tough. I'm trying to think of the last time I applied science to my life.
Or it could be even out in the world or in the community, or I'm not just for a dumb example, not dumb example, but I was talking to someone the
Uh,
other day that was talking about wind energy and harnessing wind energy. And as a non-science, I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Why, that sounds cool. And I said, why do you care about that? And he's like, oh, the application of that for folks who live in parts of the world that don't have access to things. And so he had this almost like face came alive when he was talking
yeah.
about being a part of that. And so I guess I'm just
Um,
kind of giving that as an example.
I'd say I read this thing about like solar and Elon Musk the other day. Like he's made a statement where like if he had like 100 square miles to just put factories, he he put like 5 factories on it, and he could power the whole world with that. Which is kind of crazy to me. Like that doesn't like you think about that, and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like you're
Hmm.
just saying that to like you're kind of waffling a little bit,
Hmm.
but like to be able
Yeah.
to like naturally pull the energy from the sun and then harness that and distribute it is really interesting to me. And it's Elon Musk, so
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's something I think to pay attention to because there's a movie with Owen Wilson named You, Me, and Dupree. And he's this guy that is the best friend of a guy that's, I think, an attorney. And so his friend is like this go for it, super intense career guy. And then Dupree, Owen Wilson, is just this like vagabond. He travels and surfs and just hangs out. And he's like in his mid 40s. And there's a scene where he comes into a kindergarten class to give a career day speech. Owen Wilson does. And he's like, some of you are going to figure this out early. You're going to figure out that you're a teacher or
Yeah.
a little NASA scientist. But a lot of you are just going to like wait till it zaps you. And I think there's some truth to that. I think a lot of people, though, they never find
Hmm.
the thing that lights them up or gives them joy or passion.
Yeah.
They just kind of get on with it and get through life. But I like the idea of looking for a problem that bothers you, a problem that you want to solve, because then you can, if you see the problem and it's just like, gosh, yeah, like, I mean, that's whether that deeply irritates you, like that's not right, or
Yeah,
it deeply excites you, like, oh my gosh, imagine if, then it can pull you into
totally.
which track that would be down. And just imagine the sciences, is that engineering, is that marine science, like just be, and it's,
Yeah,
but it's based on the long term. That's the problem I want to go after. And then I'll do whatever
I
it
totally
takes
agree with that.
to get through there. Wrapping up a little bit, as you are on the front end of the college applications process, a year from now, we can do the same conversation and we'll be talking
Yeah.
about how was the first week of school, or you're going to go off, you're moving on campus in 2 weeks. What do you want to be able to tell yourself, kind of a time capsule? What do you hope that you're proud to say a year from now about how you've gone through this year in this process?
I'd say I'd like to be able to look back and be like, I worked hard for this. I put in the time and effort like I said I should, and I would if I wanted to get to this point. Um, and I'd probably say the best is yet to come, which because like it's like the first big step, like I said earlier at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. Yeah. Also, kind of have an open mindset about the whole thing. Like, it's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting thrown in a dorm with a kid you met online or whatever. You texted a couple times. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'd like to be able to say that I'm
Yep.
proud of how I got to this point and my effort that like allowed me to be there.
Mm. Knowing yourself, what's the warning or the watch out that you need to be careful of? Make sure you don't do
Um,
this, or make sure you
that's
do
actually
that.
a really good point because I'd definitely say don't think it'll just be handed to you because that's like
Yeah.
you can just have all these ideas of like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, but you gotta put in the work for it. It's not just gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh, we want you to come attend Harvard or whatever. Like, it's not gonna. I mean, I'm not going to Harvard. I know that
Right.
for sure. But yeah, no, I'd
Yeah.
definitely be wary of procrastination and like realizing that I have
Mm-hmm.
to. It's all on me. It's not like anyone else is just gonna magically help me with this journey. I mean, I'll have helping hands along the way for sure, but it really comes down to if I
Yeah.
really want to put in the effort for myself or not.
Well, it reminds me, I have a kid that shall go unnamed, but he was a little bit late to get his permit, later than he could have gotten it. He could have gotten it already. And he made this comment. I think I said, when are you going to get your permit? And he said, you haven't helped me figure out how to get it. And I was like, dude, are you kidding? Like, I figured that out before the
Yeah,
internet existed. You can figure it out. But that same transaction that you're talking about, like, it's not your parents, there's not a counselor. No one's going to walk you step by step through that. Like I saw this clip of LeBron
yeah,
James in high school playing football. He was, I think, a wide receiver, and he was amazing. And then he quit football because he had all these adults saying, you don't want to get injured. You're going to be the next great one. And what you're talking about is like, it's the LeBron James theory of life. Like,
yeah,
someone out there they know how awesome I am, and they're just going to hand me something. And I know I get in that in some ways too, but for you to say like tell yourself, Abe, no, it's not. You need to go off and get it. Nobody knows what you dream about. Nobody knows who you
hmm
want to become. Even your parents don't, which is why they recommended you for this. So the last thing I want to offer, I want to give you a couple things after this. One, we have this really simple kind of step by step. Like, when I say step by step, it's like 3 things, and it's similar to questions that we've been talking about here. It's called When You Get Older. It's a free thing on our website, and it helps you think about these broader questions, because, and the reason we offer it, particularly to those going through college admissions, is because there's going to be so many stressful points. There's deadlines, parents asking you about
yeah,
things. There's financial implications. There's so much threat to making the wrong choice. And every single time when that stress comes for anybody, your ability to think clearly goes down. And all of a sudden, it's a either or choice as far as you can tell. And the questions that we offer through this When You Get Older course can help you actually get out of that stress a little bit and almost zoom out on your life and think about, oh, no, okay, this is, the deadline's in a couple of weeks, but it's about this larger thing about my life, of who I'm becoming and all that stuff. So that's one. The other thing is, and I'm going to send this to you for being a guest on this little podcast here, in addition to taking to play golf, is we have a step-by-step course through the college applications process, and it will walk you through literally every step of the way, what you should do week by week. And the big emphasis, and we partnered with a woman named April Maniscalco, I'm not sure if she is now, she was at Canyon Crest Academy, one of the top schools in the state. So she knows her stuff about all the applications process. And then the other part of it is all these bigger questions about how do you make the right choice based on who you are. And in addition to that, every single day, an email will be sent to you from a friend of mine that went to USC. And she writes to the lens of a student a little bit older than you, saying, don't forget to do this. Remember that. Remember to take a break. Remember to ask for help. Like all these little tips that you probably, maybe your friends have that, but chances are they haven't been through this process yet. So anyways, that's the college apps crash course I'm going to send to you. But the most important stuff is this When You Get Older types of questions. What do you value? Who do you want to be? Who do you look up to? What kind of problems do you want to solve? And then if you can find a way to find a school that also seems like it's going to be exciting, all the other stuff, you stay focused on that. Abe, thanks for being a bit of a guinea pig. And one of the reasons I wanted you on here is to almost give an example for parents and teachers. How do you have these kinds of conversations with a young person? And it's hard for parents. I'm not your dad, but I know that with my kids, because of the anxiety I feel for my kids, and your parents, I'm sure, feel for you. Every single time I talk to my kids about their future, my anxiety goes up. And typically I stop thinking clearly and I get super intense with them about like, if you blow it, it's your life, but it's also your reflection of your parents. So maybe that's my small encouragement to you to remember your parents are going through this too. And they're also anxious. And there might be a few times where you need to lead them, like manage them and say, you need a timeout. Let's talk about this tomorrow. Whether it's about finances or the decisions you're making or deadlines. I'm back to that point of this is your life, not theirs. And I know your parents, they want to be helpful, but it's hard. It's hard. So I'm saying that as a parent to you. Anyways, thanks, Abe, and best of luck. Don't blow it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You only get one life. Make sure you don't ruin it.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
I'll see you soon, buddy. Hey, thanks for joining in on the U School podcast. We'd love to share with you the resources available on our website at theuschool.com. Not just articles, ebooks, worksheets, and other podcast episodes, but specifically, you should know about a free course we have available called the Real Me course. It's digital, it's interactive, and it'll guide you to get clearer about who you are and the great story you could tell with your life. So go register for a free account and get started on the Real Me course today at theuschool.com. That's theuschool.com.